Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog. So, what's going on? Well, for those of you who may remember, may recall, uh, Flying Buffalo Incorporated, tongue twister there for me, FBI, which is Tunnels and Trolls, um, Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes, there's some city books. There's some a lot of IP that's actually attached to Flying Buffalo. Well, apparently, all the Flying Buffalo assets that were purchased by WebSphere, and WebSphere is like a holding company to some extent. WebSphere did nothing with the material except for recently start closing third party contracts. Like if you had or canceling, I should say, with small independent publishers that were publishing material for Flying Buffalo slash Tunnels and Trolls. Well, now we kind of understand why. Similarly to, I don't know, if you're a homeowner and you're looking to sell your rental property, generally speaking, whoever's buying wants the renters out. They want a clean slate when they purchase the property. Well, that seems to be what's going on here. So let's take a look at the official announcement. I'm excited. I'm a big Tunnels and Trolls guy, and this is kind of interesting. Well-renowned independent creative studio Rebellion is delighted to announce the acquisition of Tunnels and Trolls, one of the trailblazing games of the fantasy genre and the second role-playing game ever published. First published in 1975 by Flying Buffalo as a more player-friendly alternative to Dungeons and Dragons, Tunnels and Trolls introduced role-playing to new audience through its audiences through its streamlined mechanics and pioneering approach to solo role playing. And that's how I found it back in the day as a solo RPG. Now, almost 50 years later, after its original publication, the Rebellion Unplugged team is bringing Tunnels and Trolls into a new era. Tunnels and Trolls is an unrecognized trailblazer in the games industry, says Duncan Malloy, head of Rebellion Unplugged. The team at Flying Buffalo responded to an entirely new medium by focusing on how role playing could be more approachable, more accessible, and more fun. So much of the modern era of role playing, from old school hacks to streamlined systems to solo play, can directly trace its roots back to this series. We're very excited to channel that spirit in bringing Tunnels and Trolls into the modern era. When I first discovered Tunnels and Trolls in the mid 1970s, I didn't realize I was unlocking a lifelong interest in fantasy role playing games, books, movies, and all things genre based, called Rebellion's CEO and creative director Jason Kingsley. The game has remained with me throughout my life, and I can't wait to see what the team have in store for it. After the passing of Flying Buffalo founder Rick Loomis, the company had been taken over by WebSphere. We were very excited to see Rebellion expand its first property, added John Huston, president of WebSphere. As a longtime fan, I always felt that Flying Buffalo role-playing lines had such incredible potential. As part of the acquisition, Rebellion have taken over Flying Buffalo's entire line of role-playing games, including the cult classic City Book, Grimtooth, and Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes series. The entire back catalog of Flying Buffalo PDFs remain available to purchase online, with future releases coming directly from Rebellion Unplugged. And now, this is a message from CEO Jason Kingsley. My first encounter with Tunnels and Trolls was an ad in the back of a wargaming magazine that I was reading in the school library. The game promised brave new worlds of heroic fantasy, magic, and adventure, an exciting proposition. That was enough to convince me to fill out the order form, send off my postal order, and wait, somewhat patiently, for it to arrive. 28 days later, I received the package containing a yellow book with black tape binding. The Tunnels and Trolls rulebook. It wasn't hard to convince some friends to give it a go, and before long I was spending my weekends drawing out dungeon plans, inventing new monsters, and heading out on adventures. With its rich, accessible rule set, Tunnels and Trolls gave me all the tools I needed to create the fantasy world I had wanted for me and my friends to get lost in. I mean, I personally think that some of the British printings of Tunnels and Trolls were at least superior in and flavor. To some of the American, particularly I'm fond of the Corgi releases. Uh, it was my introduction to role playing games, and I was hooked. I still have fond memories of some of my favorite characters decades after I first conceived them. There was Basil Neat, the mysterious, a powerful wizard with suspiciously spiderly legs protruding from under his floor-length gowns, and surprising mastery of the immobilization spell Glue You. Or my part elf wanderer, Jeff Foamkestrel, a friend of many unusual animals, and whose name concisely and so very well conveys the tone of the game. There were countless others beyond them, many of whom met their grisly ends of playing the vast range of Tunnels and Trolls solo adventures. He didn't cheat. What kind of solo adventure in TNT is that? They're never balanced, by the way, folks. While others fell to some particularly challenging monsters of my friends' creations. Tunnels and Trolls will always hold a special place in my heart. It sparked a lifelong interest in role playing and fed into my love of the fantasy genre, which has stuck with me to this day. I'm delighted to bring it into the Rebellion, and I can't wait for the new adventures from the Unplugged team. So, there's an FAQ. Who are Rebellion? Rebellion is one of the world's most successful independent creative studios, producing video games, books, comics, tabletop games, TV, film, and more. Rebellion Unplugged is a small team of tabletop industry veterans who form Rebellion's tabletop division. You may know us from the critically acclaimed Sniper Elite board game or the RPG anthology series Adventure Presents. What will happen with Tunnels and Trolls at Rebellion? We are actively working on the next chapter of Tunnels and Trolls releases. That's all I can say right now. But make sure you always hear the latest news on Tunnels and Trolls. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Will the content be compatible with my Tunnels and Trolls books? Exactly how the new content of Tunnels and Trolls will look and play is still a work in progress. What we can say is that at every step of development, we're considering how the new plans we have in store will integrate with the parts you already have, whether it's your favorite player character or your most well beloved solo adventure book. Can I still get old issues of Tunnels and Trolls? By old issues, I'm assuming prior releases in the series. They're not really issues. I think they're thinking of it like a comic book. But the entire back catalog of Flying Buffalo RPGs remains available to buy at Drive Through RPG. Will I be able to publish my fan made Tunnels and Trolls contents in the future? Yes, absolutely. This is important, folks. Tunnels and Trolls thrives on its community, as do most games. The fans of Tunnels and Trolls are core to its enduring legacy, and we are keen to make sure they remain active participants in the game. We're still in the very early stages of planning, and we'll be putting a call out to creators later this year. Subscribe to the newsletter or our social channels if you're interested, as that's where we'll be talking about it first. Anything else you can tell us? There's going to be a new edition. It's going to be fun. All right. I'm excited. I mean, I'm always happy. The great thing about TNT is generally there's mostly compatibility between the editions. Mostly. But it's just a fun system, especially for small groups. It's not overpowering, it's not overtaxing. So I will follow this. I will keep on top of this. And we will see where this goes. All right, folks. Quick note tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on this very channel. Kelsey Dion, Shadow Dark, creator, writer, driving force, will be the special guest on Talking Crit with Bad Mike and myself. So please join us. We hope to see you there. I'll probably briefly mention Tunnels and Trolls at some point because it's an important news for those who may miss this episode. But we'll be talking a lot of Shadow Dark with creator herself. All right, folks. On that note, be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Tonight, 8 p.m. I hope to see you then. Laters.